My boyfriend, Austin Miller, always called me by his ex-girlfriend's name. On my birthday, when he handed me a gift, the words slipped out of his mouth. Summer, this is your favorite shade of lipstick. When he accompanied me to the hospital for an 4 drip, he asked, Summer, does it hurt? Even on Valentine's Day, as he held me by the waist in the dark, he whispered, Summer, just relax. Every single time, I corrected him with rising anger. My name is Sarah, Austin, not Summer. Over time, Austin began to pause for a solid 2 seconds before calling my name. Eventually, he would manage to get it right. Sarah. I thought he had finally trained himself to forget her. Until Summer Reed, his ex, joined our company. And just like that, he started slipping up again. Even when he went down on one knee, holding a ring in front of me, he blurted out, Summer, will you marry me? But this time, I didn't get angry. I didn't correct him. I stopped forcing him to get my name right altogether. When Austin realized what he had said, his face went completely blank. He scrambled to his feet, trying to reach out to me, but he still hesitated for 2 seconds before speaking. Sarah, An overwhelming wave of irony washed over me. Even in a moment like this, he still had to calculate before addressing me. I knew exactly what he was going to say. It was just a habit. He was too nervous. After 3 years together, I was sick to death of his excuses. I took a step back, dodging his hand. Save it. We're done, Austin. Let's break up. No. Austin tried to grab my arm, but the commotion had already drawn our coworkers over. This was our annual company retreat, and seeing a proposal, everyone instantly lost their minds. Oh my God. Austin is actually proposing at the retreat. Summer. I had no idea you and Austin were together. Why didn't you tell us? I turned around and saw Summer standing not far behind me. My figure had been completely hidden by the trees along the pathway. From a distance, it really did look like Austin was kneeling right in front of her. Summer was covering her mouth, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and pure joy. Our coworkers swarmed her, cheering and pushing her toward Austin. Someone pushing past aggressively shoved me aside. Hey, they're proposing here. Why are you standing in the middle like a total third wheel? I stumbled. My long dress was stepped on, and my styled hair got caught on someone's jacket zipper, ripping painfully. I was shoved and squeezed out of the crowd, looking utterly pathetic. By the time I managed to look up, the two of them were surrounded by a thick circle of cheering people. Summer, wearing a white lace dress, stood in the center like a glowing bride waiting for her happily ever after. And I, like everyone else, was just a random spectator watching their beautiful moment. Through the gaps in the crowd, my eyes met Austin's. His expression was incredibly complicated. I saw his lips part, as if he wanted to shout an explanation. But looking at Summer, who was crying tears of joy, he swallowed his words. He forced a smile and slid the ring meant for me, onto her ring finger. I let out a bitter laugh. I didn't make a scene. I didn't demand answers. I just turned around silently, walking away from the celebration that was supposed to be mine. The sky grew dark, and the wind blowing off the river was freezing. I walked across the bridge alone. My mind kept flashing back to how excited I had been when I accidentally saw Austin's proposal plans. I had booked the makeup artist a month in advance. I ordered the perfect dress online. I spent 8 hours at the salon getting my hair done. Last night, I was so nervous I couldn't even sleep. I had hugged my blanket, trying to picture Austin's face when he proposed. He was always so calm and collected. Would he stutter? Would his ears turn bright red? No matter what, I had planned to grab the ring, throw myself into his arms, and scream. Yes. 1,000,000 times yes. If the sunset over the river was just right, the light would coat us in gold, just like in those cheesy romance movies. Maybe a passerby would take a picture of us. I wanted to use it as the cover of our wedding album, placing it in the most visible spot of our future home. Thinking about it back then, I had actually laughed out loud with sweet anticipation. The harsh honk of a car horn snapped me back to reality. Now, with ruined hair and dusty footprints covering my dress, I was walking alone in the dark. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Austin.
Sarah, I'm so sorry.
I stopped walking. But let's just go with it for now. Summer already accepted in front of everyone. Don't make it humiliating for her. I'll explain to everyone later that it was just a dare. I stared at those lines for a long time, but I wasn't surprised. The second Austin said the wrong name, I knew exactly how he would handle it. It was just like Valentine's Day, when the massive bouquet of red roses he ordered was accidentally delivered to Summer's desk. When I wanted to go claim it, he had gently held my hand down. I'm sorry, Sarah. I put the wrong recipient name by accident. Just let Summer keep them. Taking them back in front of the whole office would make her look bad. Another notification popped up in the company retreat group chat. Austin is buying drinks for the engagement party. Everyone meet at the hotel's second-floor restaurant now. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. It was part of his original proposal plan. Since he had proposed to the wrong person, he decided to just let Summer have everything else too. That was always Austin's logic. Someone posted a photo of the dinner table. It was the hotel's highest tier menu, and the main course was king crab. I am severely allergic to seafood. Austin could never remember that. But it happened to be Summer's absolute favorite. Maybe this was the universe guiding him back to where he belonged. I closed the app and opened Uber. Whatever the case, I was officially bowing out. I unlocked the door to our apartment. The first thing I saw was our couple's portrait sitting on the entryway cabinet. My footsteps faltered. Austin hated taking pictures. I had to beg him for months to get that photo. I remembered the day we moved in. I ran around the apartment holding the frame, trying to find the perfect spot. Austin had watched me, shaking his head. "It's just a photo, Sarah. What does it matter where it goes?" I had turned around and looked at him seriously. "It matters. I want everyone who walks through that door to see how happy we are the very second they enter." I chose the spot right by the door. The hallway light would hit it perfectly the moment the door opened. It was my only comfort after working late-night overtime in this crowded city, trying to build a life with him. But was I really happy? I picked up the frame, running my fingers over the glass. Even in our couple's photo, Austin looked stiff and emotionless. Suddenly, the dozens of photos my coworkers had spammed in the group chat rushed into my mind. In every single one of them, Austin was holding Summer, smiling with a warmth I hadn't seen in years. Maybe I was the only one who ever felt happy in this relationship. I placed the photo face down on the cabinet and started packing my bags. My clothes, my shoes. When I got to my jewelry, my hands paused. The necklace hanging in the center of the rack was the birthday gift Austin gave me last year. I cleared out all the gifts we had exchanged over the years. Since we were breaking up, there was no point in keeping any of it. For the first and second year, our gifts were mutual and thoughtful. But for the third year, there was nothing from Austin. Not for our anniversary, and not for Valentine's Day. Because he had accidentally addressed them to Summer. I sent Austin a text. "I threw away the things you gave me. The things you bought for me are in the bedroom closet. Do whatever you want with them." By the time I finished packing, he still hadn't replied. I opened Snapchat. The party had just ended, and everyone was raving about how fun it was. Summer had posted a story. "You said she was just a compromise, a responsibility you couldn't shake.
It's okay.
I will wait for you forever." No views, no replies yet. She had customized her settings, so only I could see it. I tapped the heart icon, closed my phone, and rolled my suitcase toward the door. What they did next was none of my business. But the moment I opened the door, I ran straight into a panting Austin. Seeing me, he let out a sigh of relief. But in the next second, his brows furrowed, his voice filled with annoyance. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming back? I was looking all over for you." I didn't answer. I just found it hilarious. Looking all over for me? More like he had finished his fancy dinner, accompanied Summer through the entire celebration, and only came looking for me when he finally had some free time. Austin pushed past me into the apartment. Under the bright hallway light, he finally noticed my suitcase. His face fell. "Where do you think you're going this late?" I looked at him, completely expressionless. "I'm moving out. I'll come back for the rest of my stuff later." Hearing this, Austin didn't beg me to stay. Instead, a familiar look of impatience washed over his face. It was the exact same look he gave me whenever I got upset over him calling me Summer, back when he would half-heartedly promise he didn't love his ex anymore. He took a deep breath, trying to play the patient partner, and pulled the ring box from his pocket.
Fine.
"I swear I only love you, okay? Today was genuinely an accident. And I only took the team to dinner because the deposit was non-refundable. I didn't want to waste the money." He brushed it off as if he had just grabbed a casual burger with coworkers. I explained everything to Summer, too. "Look, I even got the ring back. Let's just drop it." Austin grabbed my hand, trying to force the ring onto my ring finger, but it was incredibly loose. The moment I let my hand drop, the ring slid right off my finger and clinked onto the floor, rolling to Austin's feet. The air went dead silent. Looking at Austin's stunned face, I let out a mocking laugh. "Another accident? Did you get the wrong size when you ordered it too?" When that ring was on Summer's finger, it had fit flawlessly, like it was custom-made for her. For once, Austin looked guilty. He picked up the ring, coughing to hide his embarrassment. "It was an oversight. I'll get it resized tomorrow." "Don't bother." I cut him off coldly. "When I said we're breaking up, I meant it. We're done, Austin." Austin froze. Slowly, he put the ring back in its box. As he snapped the lid shut, the guilt on his face evaporated, replaced by his usual cold, indifferent mask. "Sarah, I said I'd get it fixed." He looked at me like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum. "Every time something minor happens, you threaten to break up and run away. It's getting really exhausting." My breathing hitched. Suddenly, I remembered the night of our project launch party. I had won the grand prize in the company raffle, a fully sponsored, week-long paid vacation. I had been ecstatic. I hadn't taken a day off in 3 months, and I hadn't seen my parents in 2 years. But after I booked my flight and my parents took time off work to wait for my arrival, HR called me. They told me my prize had already been claimed. Austin came by and redeemed it. He said he had your permission to transfer the vacation voucher to your department's new intern, Summer Reed. When I confronted him with tear-filled eyes, Austin didn't even look up from his laptop.
Oh, that.
I must have written down the wrong name by mistake. Then go get it back. I had screamed, grabbing his phone out of his hand. But the screen was open to Summer's Instagram post. A fully paid vacation to a music festival. Best boss ever. Thank you. It was a slap to the face. My hands shook as I held the screen up to him. An accident? You call this an accident? Austin didn't apologize. Instead, he blamed me with chilling coldness. The mistake was already made. I just maximized the utility. Giving incentives to subordinates builds my authority as a leader. Sarah, you've been at this company long enough. Can you please start looking at the bigger picture? I was driven mad by his hypocritical corporate speak. That was the first time I ever threatened to break up with him. Even when he called me Summer 1,000 times, I had never thought about leaving. I stayed in a hotel for 3 days, but I didn't receive a single text of apology. Eventually, I realized Austin only treated me this way because he knew how much I loved him. He knew I would always forgive him. He knew I had abandoned a stable job in my hometown and moved thousands of miles to this city just because he said he hated long-distance relationships. The day I crawled back home, he had a smirk of victory on his face. Taking my suitcase, he had said casually, "Don't do that again. Be mature." The Austin standing in front of me now looked exactly like he did that day. But this time, I wasn't going to crawl back. I repeated myself, clearer and firmer than ever. I am serious, Austin. We are over. He slammed the door on his way out, leaving only a cold parting shot. You are completely unstable right now. Get some professional help and calm down. I didn't care where he went. Summer's Instagram story popped up immediately. I always knew I was your first choice. In the photo, the proposal ring was back on her finger, fitting perfectly. I liked the post. I took one last look at the apartment I had lovingly decorated piece by piece and quietly shut the door behind me. The next morning at work, the two of them walked in together. The office erupted in congratulations. I ignored the noise, keeping my head down to work on my transition files. Since joining this company, I had closed deals worth over $100 million. Next week, I was scheduled to be promoted to sales director, which meant I would lead my own department and would no longer have to work under Austin. Carrying my files, I stood up and ran right into Austin. His mouth opened, as if he wanted to say something. I walked right past him without a word. I walked straight to HR. Jerry, here's my promotion paperwork. Let me know if anything is missing. Jerry, the HR rep, flipped through my file with a confused expression. But your department's promotion slot has already been submitted. What? I froze. Austin submitted it yesterday. He said Summer Reed was the main contributor to the high-value project, so he requested the promotion slot go to her. She's being fast-tracked to team lead. Team lead was my current position. Austin was literally stealing my hard work and success to pave a path for his ex-girlfriend. My phone buzzed. Summer helped cover up the proposal mix-up yesterday. Clarifying it publicly would destroy her reputation. Think of this promotion as compensation for her. Your promotion can wait until next quarter. I stared at the screen, a blinding rage erupting in my chest. I was furious at Austin's utter shamelessness. But I was even more furious at myself for loving him so blindly in the past, allowing him to treat my career like his personal playground. But this time, I wasn't going to take it lying down. Without a second thought, I filed a formal complaint disputing Summer's promotion. Since I had proof that I was the sole creator and executor of the project, HR verified and rejected her promotion in less than half a day. During that time, Austin sent me dozens of angry messages. I ignored every single one of them. When the notification popped up on my computer screen confirming my own promotion was approved, I finally let out a long breath. My phone lit up with a final text from Austin. Are you happy now that you've thrown your little fit? Make sure you come home early tonight. Don't make things uglier than they already are. Even now, Austin thought I was just acting out of jealousy. With a few taps, I blocked his number and sent him straight to my blacklist. Then, I went back to my temporary hotel room. The next morning, after the sales department's morning meeting, I was asked to stay behind to discuss my transition to sales director. But the moment I stepped out of the conference room, the atmosphere in the office had completely changed. When people saw me, they looked at me like I was a piece of trash, quickly lowering their heads and whispering as they hurried past. Snatches of their conversation drifted over. So, she's the homewrecker? She seemed so professional. I had no idea she was that kind of person. A terrible feeling crept into my chest. I hurried back to my desk and opened WhatsApp. The company group chat had been completely spammed by Summer. A certain team lead, Sarah Vance, has repeatedly harassed and tried to seduce my fiancé. When she failed, she maliciously sabotaged my promotion out of spite. How can a company allow someone so toxic to work here? The comments underneath were brutal. No wonder she didn't show up to the engagement dinner. She was jealous. Summer had uploaded dozens of cropped screenshots of my chat history with Austin. She had deleted all of Austin's replies, making it look like I was unilaterally begging and harassing him. To avoid office gossip, Austin and I had never made our relationship public. But since everyone had just eaten his free engagement dinner, it was obvious whose side they were going to take. The rumors had been brewing for an hour, with thousands of messages flying back and forth. Yet, Austin, the co-star of this drama, had said absolutely nothing to defend me. In fact, those screenshots were taken from his perspective. My stomach turned. I started typing rapidly, trying to draft a clarification. Suddenly, a loud commotion erupted at the entrance of the office. Summer pushed past the coworkers trying to stop her and marched straight to my desk. Before I could even react, a sharp slap landed squarely on my cheek. "You cheap homewrecker. Seducing my fiancé, and you still have the nerve to show up to work." The physical shock of the blow jerked my head to the side. For a fraction of a second, the office went deathly quiet. Every keyboard stopped clicking. Every phone call was abruptly muted. Dozens of eyes locked onto us. My cheek burned, a hot, throbbing pain radiating toward my temple, but my mind remained incredibly, almost terrifyingly clear. I didn't scream. I didn't burst into tears. I slowly turned my head back to face Summer. She was panting, her chest heaving, her eyes wide with a mixture of performative rage and hidden panic. She was still wearing the white lace dress from the day before, though it looked slightly wrinkled now. Before she could draw her hand back to her side, I reached out, grabbed her wrist in a vice-like grip, and twisted it downward.
Ah.
"Let go of me," Summer shrieked, her face contorting as she tried to pull away. "You like to touch things that don't belong to you, Summer," I said, my voice low, calm, and carrying perfectly across the silent office. "But I suggest you keep your hands to yourself in a professional workspace."
Sarah.
"What are you doing? Let her go." Austin's voice cut through the crowd. He marched over, his face flushed with embarrassment and anger. He grabbed my shoulder, trying to force me to release Summer, but I threw his hand off with enough force to make him stumble back a step. "Don't touch me, Austin," I said, finally letting go of Summer's wrist. She immediately fell back into Austin's arms, sobbing loudly and cradling her wrist as if I had broken it. "She hit me. Austin, she's crazy. She's the one who's been harassing you, and now she's physically attacking me," Summer wailed, making sure her voice carried to the onlookers. Austin looked at me, his brow furrowed in deep disapproval. "Sarah, this is completely out of hand. You're acting like a lunatic. Apologize to Summer right now, and we can go to my office to handle this privately." Privately? Of course he wanted to handle it privately. He wanted to sweep his lies, his manipulation, and his girlfriend's assault under the rug so he could keep his hands clean. I looked at the coworkers surrounding us. I saw the judgment in their eyes, the disgust, the whispered comments. They had fully bought into Summer's narrative. To them, I was the bitter, rejected third wheel who had tried to steal Austin away and was now sabotaging a happy couple out of sheer malice. "We have nothing to discuss privately, Austin," I said. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and pointed it at the ceiling corner. There is a high-definition security camera directly above my desk. It recorded every single second of what just happened. It recorded Summer walking over to my desk, initiating a physical altercation, and striking me. Summer's sobbing hitched. She glanced up at the camera, a flicker of genuine fear crossing her face. "Furthermore," I continued, turning to the rest of the office, "the company has strict guidelines regarding physical violence in the workplace. HR has already been notified of this incident automatically through the silent security alarm under my desk. I suggest you both prepare your statements." "Sarah, stop being so dramatic," Austin snapped, stepping in front of Summer as if protecting her from me. "It was a misunderstanding. Summer was emotional because of your malicious reporting to HR yesterday. You took away her promotion. You ruined what was supposed to be the happiest week of our lives." "I didn't take away her promotion, Austin," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "I defended my own work. Summer has never touched the Aegis Group account. She doesn't even know the client's name. Giving her credit for a $100 million deal is corporate fraud. And you, as the department head, signing off on it is a direct violation of your fiduciary duties to this company. Austin's face drained of color. He hadn't expected me to speak so openly about the Aegis project in front of the entire department. He thought I would protect him, just like I always had. Before he could respond, the heavy glass doors of the department lobby slid open. Jerry, the HR representative, walked in, flanked by two corporate security guards. He looked at the tense circle of people, then at my reddening cheek, and finally at Summer and Austin. "What is going on here?" Jerry asked, his voice stern. "Jerry, thank God you're here," Summer cried, rushing forward. "Sarah Vance has been harassing my fiancé, Austin, and she just tried to physically assault me at my desk." Jerry didn't look at Summer. He looked at me. "Sarah, is this true?" "No, Jerry," I replied calmly. Summer Reed walked over to my desk and slapped me in front of the entire sales department. "I have already requested the IT department to pull the security footage from camera 4. I will also be filing a formal police report for physical assault." "A police report?" Austin's voice cracked. "Sarah, don't be ridiculous. This is an internal matter. We don't need to involve the police over a minor dispute." "A minor dispute?" I laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "A physical assault in a corporate office is a criminal offense, Austin. And as for the harassment allegations..." I turned my computer screen around so the entire room, including Jerry, could see the document I had been working on before Summer interrupted me. I have compiled the complete, unedited chat history between myself and Austin Miller over the last 3 years. It includes timestamps, IP addresses, and uncensored messages. It also includes the official lease agreement for our shared apartment, which lists both of our names, signed and notarized, along with bank statements showing that I have paid exactly half of the rent and utilities for the past 36 months. I looked at Austin, whose eyes were now wide with sheer terror. "I have also included the receipt for the engagement ring Austin was holding yesterday," I said, clicking to the next slide. "The receipt shows it was purchased using our joint savings account, an account I set up with him for our future home. He withdrew $40,000 from our shared funds without my consent to buy a ring that was custom-fitted to Summer's ring size." A collective gasp echoed through the office. The co-workers who had been whispering about me being a homewrecker suddenly looked at Austin and Summer with utter disbelief. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. You backed up our messages." Austin stammered, his voice shaking. "I backed up everything, Austin," I said softly. "The moment you told me to just go with it so Summer wouldn't be embarrassed, I realized what kind of man you truly are. You didn't just make a mistake. You have been using me as a placeholder, a financial crutch, and a professional stepping stone, all while waiting for her to come back." Summer looked like she was about to faint. She grabbed Austin's arm, but he was too busy staring at the screen, his face a mask of pale horror. "Jerry," I said, turning to the HR representative, "I am submitting this entire file to HR, the legal department, and the executive board. I am also filing a formal complaint against Austin Miller for abuse of authority, financial coercion, and creating a hostile work environment. And I am filing an assault charge against Summer Reed." Jerry cleared his throat, his expression grim. "Understood, Sarah. Security, please escort Miss Reed off the premises immediately. She is suspended pending a full investigation. Austin, please come with me to the executive conference room." "Sarah, please, let's talk about this," Austin begged, his arrogant demeanor completely shattered. He reached out to grab my hand, but the security guards stepped between us. "Do not touch her, Mr. Miller," one of the guards said firmly. I didn't say another word. I sat back down at my desk, picked up my phone, and called the local police precinct to report the assault. As Summer was led out of the office in tears, and Austin was escorted away like a criminal, the silence in the room was deafening. No one dared to look me in the eye. The very people who had insulted me minutes ago were now staring at their desks, terrified of being associated with the fallout. My cheeks still burned, but for the first time in 3 years, I felt like I could finally breathe. The investigation took less than 48 hours. When you have 3 years of digital footprints, bank statements, and notarized documents, there isn't much room for debate. The IT department pulled the security footage, which clearly showed Summer walking up to my desk and striking me without provocation. The legal department reviewed the chat logs and bank records, which paint a devastating picture of a department head using his position to manipulate a subordinate, misusing shared personal funds, and attempting to divert corporate promotions to his romantic partner. But the final nail in Austin's coffin didn't come from HR. It came from the Aegis Group. On Thursday morning, I was called into the office of Marcus Thorne, the VP of Sales. Marcus was a man of few words, known for his cutthroat business sense and zero-tolerance policy for inefficiency. When I walked into his office, he was sitting behind his massive mahogany desk, reviewing a thick folder. "Sit down, Sarah," Marcus said, gesturing to the chair opposite him. I sat down, keeping my posture straight and professional. "Good morning, Mr. Thorne. I've spent the last 2 days cleaning up the mess in your department," Marcus began, closing the folder. "Austin Miller has been terminated, effective immediately. His actions constitute a severe breach of contract, ethical violations, and financial misconduct. The company is currently reviewing whether to pursue civil litigation against him to recover the funds he misappropriated." I nodded slowly. I wasn't surprised. Austin's greed had finally caught up to him. As for Summer Reed, Marcus continued, she's been fired for physical assault and workplace harassment. The police have already processed a report, and our legal team will cooperate fully with their investigation. Thank you, Mr. Thorne, I said. I appreciate the company's swift action. We didn't do it to be nice, Sarah. We did it because you are too valuable to lose, Marcus said, leaning forward. Which brings me to the Aegis Group. I received a phone call this morning from Julian Sterling. Julian Sterling was the CEO of Sterling Enterprises, the parent company of the Aegis Group. He was the client who had just signed the $100 million deal. Mr. Sterling was informed of the restructuring in our sales department, Marcus said. He told me, in no uncertain terms, that if you are not the lead director on his account, he will pull the contract immediately. He knows Austin tried to steal your work, and he has no intention of doing business with a company that allows its top talent to be exploited. A faint smile touched my lips. Julian Sterling was a man who valued competence above all else. During our negotiations, I had spent weeks staying up until 3 a.m. to perfect the proposal, addressing every single detail of his company's logistical needs. He knew exactly who had done the work. I told Mr. Sterling that you have already been promoted to sales director, Marcus said, pushing a new contract across the desk. You will be taking over Austin's entire department. Your salary will be increased by 40%, with an additional override on the Aegis Group's annual revenue. Sign this, and the department is yours. I looked at the contract. This was the position I had worked myself to the bone for. This was the recognition I deserved, won not through some man's favor, but through my own sweat and blood. I picked up the pen and signed my name. Sarah Vance. Congratulations, Director Vance, Marcus said, standing up to shake my hand. Go clean up your department. By Friday evening, I had officially moved the rest of my things out of the apartment I had shared with Austin. I didn't leave a forwarding address. I hired a moving company to take my boxes to a beautiful, modern loft overlooking the city's financial district, a place I could easily afford now with my new salary. As I was packing up the last few items in the apartment, the front door clicked open. Austin walked in. He looked unrecognizable. The clean-cut, arrogant department leader was gone. His hair was messy, his eyes were bloodshot, and his expensive suit was wrinkled. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. When he saw me standing by the door with my final suitcase, his face crumpled.
Sarah?
He whispered, taking a step toward me. He paused. He stood there for a solid 2 seconds, his lips parting, before he managed to speak. Sarah, please, don't go. The irony was almost poetic. Even now, after everything had fallen apart, he still had to calculate before addressing me. The habit of calling me Summer was so deeply ingrained in his mind that he had to physically force himself to say my name. I have nothing left to say to you, Austin, I said, picking up my suitcase. Please, just listen to me, he begged, throwing himself in front of the door. They fired me, Sarah. I've been blacklisted from every major firm in the city. Nobody will hire me. The board is threatening to sue me for the $40,000 from the joint account, and the company is audit-checking all of my past expense reports. You should have thought about that before you used our house savings to buy a ring for your ex-girlfriend, I said coldly. I was stupid. I was confused, Austin cried, tears finally spilling down his face. Summer. She kept coming after me, reminding me of the past. I felt pressured.
But it was always you, Sarah.
I swear. You're the one who took care of me. You're the one who built this life with me. I can't do this without you. You don't love me, Austin. You love the convenience I provided, I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. You loved having a competent partner who paid half your rent, cleaned your apartment, covered up your professional mistakes, and took your emotional abuse, without complaining. You wanted a servant, not a wife. That's not true.
I wanted to marry you.
Then why did you buy a ring in Summer size? I asked, taking a step closer to him. Why did you call her name when you went down on one knee? Why did you give her my promotion, my vacation, and my flowers? Austin opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He couldn't answer, because the truth was simple. He had never stopped loving her, but he was too cowardly to leave the stable, comfortable life I had built for him. He wanted both. He wanted the exciting, passionate ex-girlfriend and the reliable, hard-working partner who would forgive him every time. I gave you 3 years of my life, Austin, I said softly. I tolerated your slips of the tongue, your indifference, and your coldness. I thought if I worked harder, if I was sweeter, if I was more successful, you would finally see me. But you never did. You only saw a shadow of her. I'm sorry, he sobbed, dropping to his knees. He grabbed the hem of my coat, looking up at me with desperate, pleading eyes. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll get a lower-level job. We can start over. Please, Sarah, don't leave me alone. I looked down at him, the man who had once stood so tall, looking at me with cold victory when I crawled back to him after his vacation accident, was now kneeling at my feet, weeping like a child. I felt no satisfaction. I felt no anger. I only felt a profound sense of relief. I gently reached down and pulled my coat out of his grip. "Goodbye, Austin." I walked past him, opened the door, and stepped out into the hallway. As the door clicked shut behind me, the hallway light hit the empty space on the entryway cabinet where our couple's portrait used to sit. I had thrown it in the trash chute on my way down. The Monday morning sun was blindingly bright as I walked into the corporate headquarters of our company. I was wearing a sharp, tailored emerald green suit. My hair was styled and sleek, professional waves, and my face was free of any marks. The slap from summer was a distant memory, but the strength I had found in its aftermath was permanent. As I stepped onto the sales floor, the atmosphere was entirely different from the week before. The whispers were gone. The side eyes were gone. Instead, the employees stood up as I walked past, their faces filled with a mixture of respect and professional anxiety.
They knew who was in charge now.
I walked straight to the glass office at the end of the hall, the office that used to belong to Austin Miller. The nameplate on the door had already been changed. Sarah Vance, Sales Director. I walked in, set my briefcase on the desk, and looked out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city skyline.
My phone buzzed on the desk.
I picked it up and saw a notification from Instagram. Summer Reed had deleted her account. According to HR, she was currently facing criminal charges for assault, and her legal team was desperately trying to negotiate a plea deal to avoid jail time. I cleared the notification and opened my email. There was a message from Julian Sterling of the Aegis Group. "Director Vance, congratulations on your well-deserved promotion. I look forward to our kickoff meeting this Thursday. I have no doubt that under your leadership, this project will be a massive success." I smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached my eyes. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and began to work. My name is Sarah Vance, and I am finally living the life I built for myself.